So sticking with the same thing, we're gonna work more of like Roger Gracie style, like transitions into mount. When I was a white belt, like Roger was like the Gordon Ryan now. It's like when I started training, Roger was the guy, and it was the same sequence every single time. So when I was a white belt and I watched him compete, it was 5 matches in his division, 5 matches in the absolute division, and it was the same match. It was a takedown, it was a pass, it was transition, just like this, to mount and then cross collar choke. It was nothing different. It was the same thing every single time with the same exact movements. So we're gonna do it the same exact way. We're gonna look to kill the hips to one side, get our hip underneath, start to bring that arm up, and then just leaving. By doing this, the space is created. His elbow and his knee are disconnected. So there's a clear path for you to get your knee across. But you need your underhook, and you have to understand what your base is. So if we're here, we're starting chest to chest with our partner, same exact thing. My hand comes out, I come under, and I have to go shoulder deep. So my head has to transition from this cross face that he has down towards his hip. So my shoulder's nice and low. Okay, if I can weave my hand through, perfect. If not, just shove it. So if I'm here like this, I can weave my hand through and straighten my arm out, bring my hips towards his hips, perfect. I turn my hip over and I'm using my hip to scrape his arm up. Now, as soon as I scrape his arm up, if I know I'm looking for mount, so I'm gonna transition into mount, then I won't go back to my knees. I'll keep my hip heavy on top of his shoulder, keeping his elbow and his shoulder controlled, and my right hand will come out, and I use this as an underhook. But not an underhook where I'm gonna connect my hands. My left hand is wedged underneath his back. My right hand is just gonna walk his elbow up to create enough space for my elbow to connect to my knee. So I bring my knee up from this position. So my elbow connects to my knee here. Even if his knee was connected to his elbow on this side, I can still use my underhook and then start to wedge my knee down towards the mat, okay? Now what's gonna happen in this position is, as I start to transition, because both his knees are facing in that direction, so as I start to walk his arm up and then bring my head down, he's most likely gonna catch my foot. So as I start to go here, he's gonna catch my foot in this position. So what I wanna do is I wanna start to straighten out his spine. I don't want him to stay in this position. It's gonna be hard for me to take my left foot out and I'll feel off balance. So I'm gonna post my hand and continue to walk his arm up and then bring my head over his head. I'm not worried about his other hand. Okay, once I have this underhook, I'm fine in this position. So my hand is gonna be underneath. The bend of my arm is catching his elbow. My head goes down and I use the inside of my foot. So the lace of my foot goes to the inside of his leg and use this to pry this out here. So from here I'll push, pull, and then take my leg out. Once I take my leg out, I bring my head back underneath, I get my cross face, and now we have the arm above where we can start to attack from this position. So again, just turn. But we're gonna turn and over this. Just come up here. So here, my hand slides back, my shoulder drops, I release, and I walk my head towards his hips. I start to turn my hip, and I'm scraping this up. I'm keeping my hip pointing towards his shoulder. So I'm not going back to my knees. I stay exactly where I am here. I get my underhook so that my hand is at the point of his elbow here, and I bring my knee up towards his hip. So my knee and my elbow connect. As I start to open his elbow up so it's in line with his shoulder, my head goes down towards the mat. Once my head goes down towards the mat, I start to pull him so his shoulders start to flatten out. So my head now will start to go above his head here, and as I start to turn my hip over, if I can clear it and end up in mount, perfect. Most of the time, because his knees are pointing that direction, as I start to go, he catches, and my head comes up. My left foot goes to the inside, I push, pull, and then I get 2 feet outside his hip, and we end up here. Just so you know, let's go back for 1 second. Because his arm is free on this side, if you feel like he's pushing your hip, then you're not gonna go to mount. Because if I go like this, and he pushes me away, I'm gonna end up falling to this side. Back for a second. So as soon as we're here and his hand goes to my hip and I feel like he's really pushing, then throw yourself back into side control. Don't take that and go into mount because he's pushing on this hip and you fall to that side. So if you feel that hand on your hip really pushing, then go back to side control. Don't take them out. Okay, so one more time. So here. Kill the hips, I turn, I start to scrape his arm up. I keep my hip heavy, I get my underhook, and I post my hand. At the same time I post my hand, my knee comes up, I open up the space, I drop my knee down, and I drop my head. And I start to straighten him out. So I pull my head over his head as I jack up the underhook.
Now from here, I can start to turn my hip over. If he doesn't catch, perfect. Then I can straighten my leg out. If he catches, my hip comes up. And we get straight to mat. Okay, so continue with the drill, but this time our knee's gonna follow. You're using your underhook to walk, but you have to straighten out their spine to get to mat. One more time. Here, killing the hips. Once I turn, we scrape the arm up, and I stay heavy on this side. At the same time my underhook comes through, my knee comes up. And even if he keeps that space closed, I just keep jacking up the underhook, I bring my knee down, and my head goes down. Okay, but I don't go from here. I start to straighten him out. Here. Now my head goes down, I try to slide this across, he catches. And we end up in mat.
All right, so let's go 2 and 2. Ready? 1, 2, 3.